Hello, Spirit School listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in for another week. I am very excited to bring Charlie Kelly to your awareness for those who are not aware of this amazing YouTuber who came to my awareness through one of the listeners, actually, who emailed me about his YouTube page about 7 or 8 months ago. And I had to go check it out. And I was so shocked. I wish I found you years ago when I needed the wisdom that you share on your YouTube channel. Thank you for coming, Charlie. How are you?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, no, it's cool. I'm good. Everything's good. The situation's actually been really kind to me. So I decided to go onto YouTube about a year before pre-COVID.
Okay.
And then it kind of stabilized the area for me. So I feel very fortunate that I did it early. So yeah, and I'm glad to be able to share my views, my opinions, my ways with your viewers and listeners.
I am so excited because the things that you talk about are kind of things like I sort of talk about, but I didn't hear anyone else really talk about when I was developing. So I have so many questions for you around that.
Yeah,
And
cool.
I'm really excited for this conversation. Just a disclaimer in the background that my listeners know I just got a puppy. And so she cries whenever we're apart. So you might get a little bit of that background noise. Just bear with us. And yeah, YouTube is something that's kind of new to me. Like, of course, I've looked up things on YouTube, like, how do I do this? How do I do this? But I just started my own channel like 2.5 months ago. So I'm new to posting. And for you, I looked up your Instagram. It's not very active. So you're definitely hanging out on YouTube, hey?
Yeah, from time to time, I'm really fortunate where I get to travel. So again, pre-COVID, I would do 200 dems a year. And that would take me across Europe and across the UK. So I use Instagram for that. I'm not really up on social media, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The teaching and the demonstrating and the YouTube just take up so much time. So where I can, I hop onto it.
Awesome. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. Like, how did your mediumship come into your awareness? What did that look like for you, the development journey and coming into it?
Okay, well, long story short, because there's lots of variations with how that story come about, So, firstly, it was the passing of my sister, and that got me into where is she? Where's she gone? Hopefully, there's somewhere else just beyond this life. So the idea started to form. And then probably the next big stage there would be I had a bad eye accident in a job that I was working at the time. And the accident should have killed me, but it didn't kill me. And then that led me on to, there's got to be more. There's got, how fortunate am I? And then I lost the vision in the left side. So I needed to learn spatial awareness. And I went to my doctor to ask him what was the best way to learn spatial awareness, and he put me on to martial arts. And through the training of martial arts, I learned about energy, the movement of energy, how to use the energy in a martial art, in self-defense and combat, fighting. And I learned to move the energy. And I think there was a stage where I moved it just a little bit too much. And I found the spirit world. So like everybody else, I thought I was crazy. I can see things that other people couldn't, and it would scare people. And then the biggest mistake you make is you go onto Google and you ask about what a medium is or a clairvoyant, and then you get all kinds of horror stories. And so I backed off, and then slowly it kind of reared up again, and I looked a little bit more into it. And I just thought, if I'm going to learn, then I would like to learn from what is considered the best there is, So I started on my search for a good medium, a good demonstrator, a good teacher. And along the way, you find some terrible people and some terrible tutors and some terrible classrooms and some terrible ideas. And what I found was maybe 90% of what I'd come across was very restrictive. Many people speak of this intelligent spirit world, and yet a lot of it seems unintelligent. and a lot of the restrictions seem a little bit outdated. So I kind of started developing on my own. That was maybe a key turning point there. And then I started to find the right people, maybe the demonstrators that go around the world and demonstrate mediumship. And I would throw myself into a one-off masterclass or workshop or something like that, just to make sure that I was doing the right thing, you know, what the public expected, and could I deliver. And slowly through that process, after many years, I learned what to get rid of, what was a waste of my time and my effort and my money, and focus on the things that brought about betterment for me as an individual, as a human being, and bring in better communication for those that have lost people, that are still in the grieving stage. And through the learning and through the mistakes and the failings, it equipped me with the ability to pass on knowledge. And what I found during my journey was there was never someone to go to get it black or white. There was never someone that was just said it as it was. It was all this like very special gifted stuff, and you are handpicked or you are chosen. It's in your gene pool, and to this day, I still believe that they could have picked so many better people than me. That it just didn't sit right. None of that sat right. So I started the YouTube to be that void that I found within the community. And I'm not everyone's cup of tea. You know, a lot of people want to hear how wonderful they are and how great they are and how chosen they are. But I'm that void that wants it black or white, or they want improvement. They want to put the work in and the effort in to see results for a better person, a better instrument, and a better communicator. So that's probably how my journey's gone so far.
I love it. I have so many questions. And you know, I was just talking to my membership a couple weeks ago, where I remember when I first kind of discovered I had mediumship abilities when I was 31, I spent many years in doubt that I even did, because I remember listening to old Gordon Higginson lectures, and he was very clear, either you're a medium or you're not. I can't help you if you're not.
Yeah.
And I spent so much time thinking like, well, what if I'm not? Right?
Yeah.
And it was kind of like this old boys club of like the selected few, and it brought about a lot of insecurity, like really early.
Absolutely. I think, you know, I've got all the books, and I've got, you know, they're all first editions, you know, I've spent years collecting them, and as wonderful as they are for the time, it just don't hold up for me now. It's just, you know, I'm a massive ambassador for the spirit world. I do so much work for the spirit world. But that in fairness, you know, that group, that clique that hung around with Gordon Higginson at the time, they all have that train of thought. They all have that idea, and I think it's very restrictive and very depowering to an individual that's just going into it. That doesn't take away how much charisma the man had and how good he was for the time.
Yeah.
But if we picked apart that demonstration today, I just don't think it holds up to what we're trying to achieve now. So a definite pioneer, but so many dated ways and restrictions that I think we have to move beyond to be relatable to people in 2020. And I think that's one of our key roles as a medium. We can't make it mystical, or beyond the reach of any individual. We have to be relatable to the teenagers that are out there now, and touch every mind that we come across, from a young person to the older generation. I think that's our key role as a speaker for the spirit world.
Yeah, definitely. So with your spiritual philosophy, then, would you consider it to be kind of co-created with spirit and just your experiences? Because I was never like into spiritualism. I love studying it, and spiritism. Like I love the history aspect of it. But I think like my philosophy has been kind of like picked up through my sessions, like picked up just through like spirit communications. Like, is yours much the same? Because I love your philosophies.
I think the philosophies that I try to work with, I found flaw. And so I would explore the philosophy. You know, I went and spent a month in Brazil to understand the people that work with spiritism, as you say there. But Allan Kardec's way of explaining that is from the late 1800s, and it's a
I'm reading
different
the
period
Mediumship
of time.
right now.
So it's kind of it's very dated to what we know now in 2020. It's a wonderful history that goes with it. And ambassadors for spiritism such as Chico Xavier would have been a wonderful instrument at the time. But if you listen to their story, it's fear-based. There's a lot of fear there.
Yeah.
The God and the spirit world that I work with are not fear. They're not fear-based. They're not punishing. There is a natural law in order. And you're accountable for the things that you do. And I just, as I said earlier, I'm very black or white. I know when I've been an idiot, and it's up to me to own whether I've been an idiot or I've been unethical or I haven't shown integrity. That lies only on my lap, you know. So my philosophy is quite a simple one, you know. So speak truth, and it will serve you well. And empower or help as many people as you can along the way, not depower them by dangling a carrot that they can never have. That just doesn't make sense to me. So the philosophy is very, you know, whatever teaching you come from, my personal favorite is a Maurice Barbanel, Silver Birch kind of read. Again, today there's a lot that I don't agree with, but throughout those books, Silver Birch speaks of simplicity. And yet there are so many rituals and routines that make it so hard. So I just adhered to the Silver Birch idea of simplicity. There must be an easier way. There must be this ease and understanding one's mind. Then made mediumship for me the easiest thing I've ever done. It's just really, it's just come so easy in the end once I got rid of the rubbish or the restrictions, which, you know, not everyone's going to agree, but for me it's just once I understood me, then mediumship become a lot easier.
And can you give some examples of what you got rid of? Like, can you give some examples of like what you just like this doesn't
the thought process, you know, that the spirit world speak of omnipresent. They're here all of the time. So to when you start developing, so some people look like they're in absolute agony or pain looking for a link, but it's omnipresent. It's there. So the ritual would be, I don't need to sit in silence. I don't need to train in silence, because where do you get silence? You don't get silence anywhere, absolutely nowhere, especially if there's another individual there. And that's what we're working for. We're not working for ourselves. We're working for another individual. So I realized that is pointless. Sitting for hours and hours and hours trying to silence the mind. The common sense way would be learn to silence the mind in the chaos that is every day. And so the moment I move my attention to the spirit world, I know it's there. And if I'm not aware of it, it's me. It's not the spirit world, because it's omnipresent. It's there. So these sped up processes in the reach for the spirit world become much, much quicker, because I know I don't need to meditate. I know that I don't have to light a candle. I know I don't have to open chakras or close chakras and all that kind of stuff, because it's omnipresent. It's like the air that I breathe. It's there all of the time. And so that process just becomes super quick. As I move my mind, the spirit world join me. And that style of teaching, that style of demonstrating resonates with a lot of people that not even I realized, you know. So I thought everyone wanted the love, light, unicorn and rainbow kind of stuff. But it's just not me. It's just not who I am. And so I found a way for me to be very efficient in the time that I'm giving to the spirit world. I can't stand on a stage with 100 people sitting in front of me and then say, right, just, I need you quiet. I need a moment. I need to find myself. I have to produce. I have to go and do the mechanic of mediumship. And so I just learned that way, made it very, very simple for myself.
I love that. And did you do platform like really early on in your development?
Platform come about kind of unexpectedly. I was never a medium that wanted to do readings, be locked in a room all day. I never wanted the public. I just didn't want any of it, to be honest with you. I did it for my own self-development. I wanted to know where my sister was. And so in the process of doing that, I found that I was becoming half decent at finding people. So it's a strange, people will take the story for what they want, but I went to a demonstration of mediumship at a local spiritual church, and we're very, very fortunate here in the UK that we have 1,500 plus centres that we can go and watch mediumship across the UK. And I turned up at one of these events, and it was about 10, 11 months into an intensive development, and the medium didn't turn up. And so they asked, do we have a medium in the house? And my friend was like, this guy's a medium. And so then I had to get up and demonstrate. And so I took something like 6 bookings from that event, from that one event. And it was like, oh, wow. And for the next 3 weeks after that week, everywhere I went to watch mediumship, the medium didn't turn up.
Oh, wow.
And I was with the same friend, and the same friend would go, he'll do it for you, he'll do it for you. And within 3 months, I took 120 bookings. And it was like, oh, it looks like I'm doing this now. So I'm not someone that wants the name in lights. I'm quite a private person, and, you know, but I also understand that to touch as many minds as I can, it needs to be more than one person in a room. Mm-hmm. So if I do a large audience, I'm planting enough seeds within the minds of the individuals that go to the evening to just have a think that maybe there is a spirit world, maybe, and that idea can then go into fruition, maybe at that point, or 5 years down the line, or 10 years down the line. So I see it as a shop window to the spirit world, an introduction as such.
Yeah, that is so much fun. I love that story. It reminds me of, I was told I was a medium by all the mediums I went and saw. I was like, no, I'm not. Trust me. And so this one medium, she's like, come to my mediumship development class. I'm like, no, I'll just do your intuitive development one. And then of course, like no one showed up, but one other woman who had just lost a son. And that was the first mediumship connection I had. It was like, no one showed up except for like the two of us. Like it was just kind of synchronistic, meant to be, right?
Yeah, and you know, people will rubbish the idea of the synchronicity of that, or, you know, the workings that go behind the scenes. We will never know. And for me, they're the magic that people talk about. Them little things that when we look back with hindsight, we're like, wow, what an amazing story that's turned out to be, or what an amazing experience I ended up having because of fill in the blank, you know. And so that's the magic for me. They're the magical moments.
They are, and they don't feel as profound in the moment, right? You're just kind of like,
and
you look back, you're like, holy, that was actually really magical.
Absolutely. I don't, hindsight's such a wonderful thing, isn't it? And it's something that I focus very much on the teaching within my classroom, that I try to give them the real life scenario of the ingredients that will be brought to them outside of a classroom. Because a classroom generally, not mine, but generally, is one where they practice. They practice the stuff they already know. They practice the stuff that they're good at. And for me, I don't think that's a development. That's just practice. That's practicing stuff that you're good at. So I try to bring the ingredient of despair, you know, or a difficult client, because clients usually, they're not developing mediums, are they? They're people that have lost someone, and they're not of the love light brigade. They're hurting. They're missing someone, and that's a very different scenario to one of reading for your buddy in your weekly circle or your development group. So it's something that is very, very important that we need to look at in the the teaching and in the development aspects of the real ingredients that come with it. And hindsight is a beautiful thing when we can look back and go, that taught me so much. You know, there's nothing worse than the feeling of getting your no, and you are soul destroyed and you're having to go at yourself and your spirit team, only for a month later to that person come back and go, by the way, sorry, but I said no. And it's, but you've already done it now. You've already
Well, and you
shouted
just
at
spent a
everyone.
month in agony and suffering and
Absolutely.
self, like,
Absolutely.
I've seen people actually quit because they're like, I'm good.
Absolutely.
And then like a year later, the person's like, can I have another reading? Oh, all made sense. And it's like, I mean, it's happened to me so many times. I'm a Virgo sun, so I
Absolutely.
discern to death, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. It is hard. A mediumship journey is a tough one, probably the toughest thing I've done, but not the development of mediumship. I think it's the development of me as the individual,
Right.
understanding my triggers, what makes me think, what makes me react, and understanding that can be a dent to the ego. You know, maybe I don't want to admit I'm wrong. Maybe I don't want to say sorry. Maybe I don't want to make the first move. And but once you start understanding you, that's when the comfort zones are stretched, and that's when development begins. Once you're out of that zone, once you're out of the stuff that you know, is when the real learning begins. So I enjoy all that. I enjoy that stuff.
So really, there's a question I'm dying to ask you, because
Yep.
I started this podcast 2 years ago because through all the teachers I'd ever had, I never had anyone talk about the shitty side of doing readings, like the difficult clients, the fact that sometimes you feel like a complete failure, and like how do you pick yourself
Yeah.
up of that. So I started this podcast to be like super real about like the development journey. It is not rainbows and butterflies. It is freaking hard, one of the hardest things that you'll ever do. And when I saw your YouTube and just the way that you express the information and just how like vulnerable you are about like the hard stuff, you're giving up, like don't give up video, just like complete. I watched the whole thing a few times, you put music to it. I loved it. So I was thinking when I was looking at it, I was like, I wonder what happened to him in his development that he felt so passionate about this approach to teaching. Like, did you not
Yeah.
experience the realness, like the good, the bad, the ugly when you were developing as well?
No, no, I felt it. I felt it beyond belief. You have no idea, no idea. It's the problem is what you find when you're starting on a journey is that you resonate with a group of people. You know, so maybe you and your buddy go to your local centre or your local development group, and that's great. You've got this like-minded kind of idea, and what happens is one will grow faster than the other one. And that's the way, that's human nature. You know, some people take to things better than others, but what you find is that very quickly doesn't help you resonate with that person that you originated with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't want it to be spiritual jargon, but there is a conscious shift. So you are more open. You're exploring it a little bit differently, while the other person may be still in the idea of, I need 20 minutes to open my chakras. So now you don't resonate. So the frequency, the vibration is changing. So you don't attract like anymore. So this grates against you. So what happens is that friendship will break down, or you will slowly step away from one another. And the problem is with human nature is that people don't like rejection, or they don't like the feeling of being dropped, or that sort of stuff. So then rumor starts. And so now you have to deal with rumor. Now that may be the way that you set yourself up, the way that you work, relationships, you know, all that kind of stuff can just really whip up really fast. Equally, you might not get on with a teacher. So it may be the only teacher there. I was a very difficult student, and I know I was a difficult student, but I was one of these students that was, I'm a demonstrator now even, of practice as you preach. You can't walk a walk and talk a different talk. You have to walk your talk. That's what you have to do that. And I remember a tutor, a high profile tutor, asking me to get a telephone number of a communicator. And I was like, yeah, no problem. I'll do it. I've got no problems doing it after you show me.
Yeah.
So, but they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. To which I then went on to do it. And so at that point, I realized teachers were in a very strong position. And, you know, and I know as a teacher myself that if I say to someone, you were rubbish today, that's not the end of that. That's going to go on for weeks. That's going to damage people. That's going to hurt people. That may help them decide, final straw, I'm walking away. And I watched so many people walk away because of tutors and their attitude, tutors and their ego, tutors and their demands when they can't do it themselves. So I started calling them out. But when I called them out, I would then go on and produce so I could warrant the call out. And that really, I can't stand a bully. I hate a bully. And so I tried to put an end to it. I'm never going to achieve it on my own. I'm never going to do that. But if I highlight it enough for individuals to recognize, then other people may stand with me in that bullying aspect. To stop using the pedestal of the teacher to disempower a hungry student. You know, I've seen so many good mediums walk away just because of the attitude of the people that surround them. So that's where the passion come from. And also the drive for me is that I literally don't believe in a spirit world anymore. It's not that, you know, believe makes me feel like there's an element of doubt. I absolutely know it's there. I know it's there. And I don't care if the 7.5 billion people on the planet all come together and tell me I'm wrong. I don't care. I know it's there. And so that's that drive was, it changed my life. It made me much, much better. It's much more richer, not monetary, I mean, in the things that surround me, that even someone with my story, if that can happen, then you need this in your world. And I'm going to try and facilitate that space for some of you to embrace it or embark on the journey. And that's the drive, is that I'm fed up with people putting rubbish out there and scaring people or making themselves look better than someone else for ego reasons. And I just don't like it. So it's a drive. It's something that I want to eradicate from the movement, you know. And there'll be loads of people that may see this and go, what an idiot. But someone has to start somewhere, don't they? Someone has to start somewhere. So the golden rule is walk the talk. So don't ask someone to do something that you can't do yourself. And that, unfortunately, is very much a big, big thing in the teaching aspect right now.
It is. Did you always know that you wanted to teach?
No. It was, again, quite a funny story. I was actually booked on a course of mediumship, and it was with a tutor that you know, that maybe I idolized or I loved their style. You know, that there was just something about them, and their own private story. They couldn't take the course, and it was like 24 hours before the course was due to start, so everyone was already on their way or made plans, you know. And the course was about to be cancelled, and I said to the other 50% of the tutors there, don't cancel it. I can do this. You know, don't, you know, I've been looking forward to it. Everyone else has been looking forward to it. Let's run it. I promise you, I can do it. My mediumship will hold up. And my teaching skills were nurtured by that individual. They definitely helped me with that. And that's how that come about. So I ended up being accepted as a trial run. It was successful. There was lots of areas that needed tweaking, but my colleague at the time then helped me tweak those areas, and I had a good relationship with them for three years, where they helped me through blips or understanding the classroom and whatever, and then from there it kind of, my ideas started to differ from that of the school that I was at. They're very much on the the science approach. And I just know that in my lifetime, science won't agree with mediumship in my lifetime. So although there will be pioneers that are going down that route now, I see mine as a different route or different route to show people that the spirit world are there. They are intelligent. It isn't what people say it is, and let me show you. And so then it will unfold in that way. So I see myself again as like the shop window, an introduction to an intelligent, essence-based spirit world rather than fear, negativity, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so practice as I preach, basically.
So what do you say to students? I love this conversation. I have so many kind of like rapid fire questions I want to ask you since I have you
Yeah,
have your
sure.
time. But like, what do you say to a student who comes in and says, I've been attacked, there's something attached to me? Like the true belief that the scary stuff that you see on Most Haunted and like all these other shows,
Yeah.
like what do you say to someone who really feels like they
It
experienced that?
it depends. It depends. You can't obviously insult them. You have to tread carefully. And I do what you would consider a house clearance or something like that. And it would be dependent on the individual on how I approach them. If they feel like they're ready to hear that they are the cause of what's going on, then I'll tell them straight. You're fearing something. The fear is projecting. And now that's what is in the property or the premises or whatever. And I'll share a story with you so you understand. I was in Brazil, and there was a man that had evicted a gypsy lady off of his land, and she put a curse on him and said, "You will lose your voice. You will never speak again." Now the man was so scared that within 6 months he completely lost his voice completely. I land in Brazil and I go and I bump into this man, magical or not, I don't know. But I bump into this man, and through the energy, not the spirit world, but through the energy, I could see that he was fearing a lady. Now, the lady had no intelligence. I couldn't speak to the lady. What's your name? How did you pass? What's that sort of stuff. It was just a lady. So I knew he was the creator of the projection clairvoyantly that I could see. So I said to him, "Oh, you're frightened of a lady? You're frightened that she's put a curse on you?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "You know what? I've been sent from the UK to take that curse away." So now he hadn't spoke for nearly 2 years, this man. And I knew that he had something wrapped around his throat. So I simulated undoing it from his throat. And I said to him, within 24 hours, the voice will be back. I met with that man 24 hours later, and he was talking normally. And so just in that motion, I knew fear is created by ourselves. Sorry about the bird.
Love it.
It is created by ourselves. Now, I myself have had the scary stuff, the scary stories, but I also knew with hindsight that I was responsible for what was going on. The bangings of a home or a door or the windows opening was me fearing that the bangings would happen or the windows would open or a man would be there. So if you feed fear with fear, you can only get more fear. And the overspill of the fear is usually what we encounter, the experience that we have. So it's a simple education process. Educate the person that they're the creator of their nightmare. And if they can create a nightmare, then they can also create a paradise. And so you re-educate them. And I am yet to return to a premises or a person that I've gone to help and the negative attributes still be there. So that they have understood after the conversation that they are the creator, and they then create a more positive world and surroundings for themselves. So it's really, again, for me, super simple, bird, super simple for me to sit here and say that. But when you're in the moment, obviously, it is very distressing. So I would approach them dependently on the mindset of the individual. If they have an understanding, then I'll give it black and white. If they need me to say that I'm going to take the man with me, then I'll say that, just to give them peace at home. Then that will stop. The man won't be there anymore because I've gave them the belief that I've taken it away, which then they return to me and say, how did you do it? And now I can give them the real version of events, and then they understand. So it's approach everyone as an individual. And my classroom is very much like that as well. I wouldn't teach you the same way I teach someone else. We will have a ground-based mechanic, and then we will adjust it for you, the individual, and your ways, your hang-ups, your flaws, your wonderful points, and we'll highlight that and say, this is going to be the best way for you. And then you'll get really good at that, and then you'll start to look at how you can improve it a little bit better in other areas. So the fears are no different to the way that you would teach someone to find the spirit world. The biggest misconception is because of Hollywood. You know, you've got energy, you've got positive and negative energy. That's you know, we have that every day. We're happy, we're sad. You know, that it's there. The mistake is that they place energy with spirit, and they're two different things. Spirit is essence, so a pure love, a pure essence, whereas energy is positive and negative, and that's where the misconception happens. So if there's something that's very negative going on, we know it's not the spirit world because it's energy. Therefore, we know how to deal with it. If it's love, essence, they're trying to contact, then it will be from a purity aspect. Therefore, they will answer any questions that we give them, showing intelligence, showing communication, showing it's the spirit world. So it's a really simple process.
I love that. And so on the lines of fear, being such a great teacher, like what's the number one fear you see students commonly come in with?
Their biggest fear is looking an idiot.
Okay. Yeah. That's a real fear.
Yeah. And that's what it is. It's like we've all been in a classroom. We've all been in a scenario where we've connected to the man that joins us for the lady or the man in front of us, and we get an apple. And you'll sit there and go, I'm not saying apple. I'm not saying apple. I'm not saying apple. And you won't say it in case they say no. So it'll just loop. It will be apple. Now, mediumship works is that the apple will not change until it's moved. The energy has to move. And so once you say apple, the next bit of information can come in. But if you don't say apple, then it'll just be apple. Yeah. So after 5-6 minutes of battling with yourself and sweating and worrying that you're going to look an idiot, it comes to the time of feedback at the end of class, and they'll say something like, you know, I'm surprised you didn't say apple, because every time this guy turns up, they say apple, and then the student will go, I had an apple. But you don't get the brownie points for that because you didn't say it. You were frightened. You were scared to look an idiot. So my classroom will always encourage failing. It will always encourage hitting rock bottom, because from that you will learn the greatest lessons, and you will be an outstanding communicator if you have learned to fail, if you've learned to feel an idiot, look an idiot, and still carry on. I honestly, I've said it maybe for the last year now, I honestly believe that practice doesn't make perfect. I think failing makes perfect. So I'll have 20 students in a classroom tomorrow, and if I add up all the times that they failed as a collective, I have still failed more than them. And that's why they listen, because I've put myself there and hit myself really hard on the way down. I've learned from those mistakes. So the biggest fear that I see is that they will get it wrong or they will look an idiot. So if I give them a safety net or a safety blanket of you're allowed to be wrong, you're allowed to get it wrong, you will get magnificent results. You will get the best evidence you've ever heard from a student, because they're like, well, I can be an idiot in here. I can fail. They can say no and it's okay. Absolutely.
So do you
And
think
now
translating to like a professional reading then, like they should just like mantra themselves, like it's okay to get it wrong. It's okay to look an
I,
idiot.
I, I, I'm not a huge advocate of the mantra, but I definitely tell the students, for the ingredient for you to be successful, if you want to be successful in this work, is that you have to remove the doubt and the fear that you have within your head. That means it's okay in your head to say, I am amazing at this. I am amazing. It's okay to do that. What's not okay to do is go post that on Instagram or post it on Facebook. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But privately, in your own head, say, do you know what? We are going to go out and we are going to change the world, and I'm going to be great at this. That offers such a positive energy in the process of reaching for the spirit world. Now, if I say to a student, what we're going to do is we're going to ask them their passing and we're going to ask them their name. And the student immediately will go, but what if I can't get their name? What if I don't know how they passed? And what I educate the individual is they bloody know. They know their own name and they know how they passed. All you have to do is ask them. So if I wanted to know the name of your YouTube channel, I would ask you the name of your YouTube channel because I expect you to know the name of your YouTube channel. So it amazes me how many students don't think like that.
Mm.
You know, like they feel like the responsibility is all on them to go find it. But you don't have to find it. You just ask, what's your name? And then the name can be offered. What did you pass of? Now, that may not be an image. It may be a feeling. But the feeling will be so detailed at some point that you will pinpoint eventually, maybe a year or two later, if you keep this repetitive nature up. Sorry, the camera's gone out of focus
That's all good.
now. You keep this repetitive nature of keep going for the cancer, keep going for the heart attack. The moment that ripple comes into the energy, you'll know immediately what that is. Immediately. But if you don't speak, or if you don't go through the process, you'll never accomplish what it is that you're trying to do. Especially if you have doubt. You know, what if I'm not good enough? What if I'm not worthy? What if I'm and it's all of a negative attribute to the ingredient when we're trying to be in the essence of that love and positivity, which sounds like spiritual jargon, but
Yeah.
it,
We're allowed to
it's not
blend
meant.
them in. So
Yeah.
then what do you tell people? Like, what's the advice you give people to say, like, get the fuck out of your own way? like what do
And it is the biggest problem. It really is the biggest problem. So you either let them see you fail, and there will be things that I do deliberately, where I mess it up, which blows my own mind because I've spent a decade trying to perfect my own mediumship,
Mm,
and now I go to the spirit world and say we're going to mess this one up, but then we're going to fix it.
mm,
And so you show them how to fix the scenario, and you show them that no one got hurt and no one's reputation was damaged and no one went away talking about one another. We're just here to do mediumship. So you got to show them that it's safe. There's nothing worse than a cliquey group where you're worried about making a mistake, knowing that the Claires and the Sarahs and the Marys are going to be talking about you afterwards. I'd rather just not have them in my group.
right.
So I will be that individual that says, you're not right for my group. You know, I'm hearing whispers on social media, whatever. It's not what I want in my classroom. And so my classroom is very, very supportive. They are very encouraging. That
Mm,
doesn't mean lenient or sympathetic to the answer. If it's rubbish, then it's rubbish. We're not going to hide behind the fact of let's just be nice. We're not going to do that, but constructively build on here's why we had the problem. That's the problem there. This is how we fix the problem. Let's go. And
mm,
now people grow in confidence where they go, I don't mind showing a more vulnerable side to this group. Now you've got progress. Too many people sign up for a class or a workshop or a mentoring program to look good within said group. That's the problem. They're trying to be established or recognized within the group. I've never done that. I've always gone to it to see where I'm failing. Where am I going wrong here?
Right.
And I don't care. I've looked an idiot so many times that I literally don't care now.
Yeah.
And
So that's
and
the
that,
truth then.
that's it. It gives you a sense of freedom. It gives
Yeah.
you a sense of freedom that I'm gonna get it in the end, but in the process, I'm gonna scuff my knees a couple of times. That's fine. That's okay, providing I get it in the end. And that's what we're trying to do. So I think it's the biggest problem for a student,
Okay.
is the no.
Have you ever wanted to walk away? Or were you always like,
Yeah.
why am I doing this work?
Yeah. I really did, and I think maybe there's been a ton of times that I've wanted to go, but one really sticks out. I had just quit my job. I don't know why I quit my job, but I had a good income, a respectable position. But I gave that up. I gave up my security. I gave up my home. I just gave it. I gave it up for this. I knew something had to change in the dynamic for my reality to change. I knew that. And so I had to start making decisions that I didn't like or I wasn't comfortable with. So that would be one was divorce. It just wasn't serving me, being in that scenario. The restrictions of a job wasn't there. I was focusing too much on things, like the nice car. I'm working really hard all week to have the nice car, and the car sits out there and don't bloody move. Why am I doing that? So I realized I started to prioritize what was important for me. And I reckon I had maybe 3-4 years of real hardship. It was a choice whether do I pay for the class or do I eat this evening. It was one or the other, and I always chose the spirit world. I always chose them. So I knew that there was something to be done now. I knew that. So I decided to dedicate everything to it. If I'm doing it, then I'll do it wholeheartedly. And at that point, I stopped trying to please people. I was really popular because I would say yes. Can you pick me up at 1 o'clock in the morning? Yeah, no worries. And then I'd be tired, sitting there like I need to go and pick my friend up. It's amazing how quickly those friends disappear when you start saying no. No, I'm not getting up at midnight to come and pick you up. You can arrange a taxi or something. I'm not doing it anymore. So what I found very quickly, my social circle, as much as they spoke about truth and honesty, none of them actually liked receiving truth and honesty. So at that point, it was kind of like the right people will resonate around me eventually. So everyone dropped off. So that would be relationships, friends, like lifelong friends as well. My work, my security, all of that started to fade away. But I had to clear the way to allow the new stuff in. Hindsight, I wouldn't change a thing right now, not a thing. But in the moment, my security, my relationship, I'm sure I had a nervous breakdown, or I was very close to a nervous breakdown. So hindsight again is a beautiful thing. But I wanted to walk away when they started sharpening the knives and sticking them in your back. Who's this Charlie? What's he about? Why is he saying you don't have to be chosen? So then you'd have a community of people that come after you, social media, that sort of stuff. I had a very public argument with a very high profile tutor here in the UK, and they asked me my opinion, and I gave them my opinion. And that evening I received 3,500 inboxes with death threats because they asked for my opinion. So I wanted to walk away because it's not the spiritual community that we're told about. Everyone's meant to be spiritual. I realized very quickly the spiritual community is the least spiritual community there is, because it invites everybody in. So I realized at that point, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to thicken the skin up. I'm going to have to be comfortable with who I am. And providing I speak truth, then nothing can harm me. Nothing can harm me, providing it's truth. So I remember reading something a very long time ago, there's always three sides to the story. There's your version, their version, and the truth.
Mm.
And so I tried to look at the truth. So I removed my own personal feelings or emotions from the situation, and to make my decision in that vein.
Yeah.
And that holds me up. That keeps me firm. You know, I'll analyze it. Was I fair there? Yes. Was I honest there? Yes. Was it coming from the right place there? Yes. Then I've got nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
And then at that point, that will hold you good for this career, if this is the career that you want to go down. Being a people pleaser will not get you anywhere unless you're in with the biggest name. And even then, that will come to an end at some point, which you will see a lot of on the journey. So.
Yeah. I did see that myself about the spiritual community early on. And I just made a decision like year one of developing. I'm like, this is a solo journey. Like, I just have to stay
Absolutely.
in my own lane. Right.
Absolutely.
Constantly trying to create what I wish I had. Right. Like just a
Yeah.
safe community and healing sister wounds and all that kind of stuff. Cause I did see that really early on. I've only been
Absolutely.
developing for 7 years.
Yeah.
And even in 7 years, I've seen such an evolution of
Yeah.
mediumship, and even need for mediumship has shifted and changed. People who are
Absolutely.
drawn to this. So I guess like being in it for so long and being so in it for so long, like where do you see mediumship going? Like it's evolved greatly since the Gordon Higginson days, philosophy,
Yeah.
technique. Where's it going?
I don't know, in all honesty, where it's going. I think our goal as the voice of the spirit world, and that would be me and you in the conversation, and everyone developing, is that we have to give it credibility. You know, it's losing credibility left, right, and center at the moment. So although the idea is more open, the credibility is going down because of saturation. So, you know, I know people that have been on my classes, and they've been on 2 classes, then they've opened their own class.
Right.
With,
I see that all the time.
with my exercise or my phrasing or my words, you know, and you're like, this is where the devalue comes in. This isn't where it's going. This isn't right. So there is an element of, I think where it's going to lead is that it's going to get oversaturated at one point, because we're touching those borders now, the oversaturation, and we will be put in one of 2 baskets. I believe it, I don't. So you're crazy, you're not crazy. It will fall into that kind of bracket. Then will come some form of collapse, you know, where there will be so many bad ones out there that the good ones will be lost in amongst all the bad ones, because there's so many bad ones. So that's where the collapse will be, and only the best will survive. And that's when the credibility will take place, or start the rise of this idea of the spirit world again.
Yeah.
So I think that the ones that will stay there is the ones that walk their practice. You know, they talk as they walk. I think that only the strongest will survive. I think globally it's much more accepted now, much more. Even with people that kind of, they don't care. Their God is an absent God. You know, I don't believe it. It's none of that. But we're definitely in Europe and in the US, we're much more open to the idea of, there's not one God. Who's your God? What's your God about? And we're quite accepting of that. And so that means we can have different viewpoints or different angles, but we can also still get on. It don't mean my God's better than your God, and so, you know, and vice versa. So we're in a better place for that. I think that's a good thing. I think what the spirit world are trying to do is show that we are all as powerful as each other if we choose to be. The option's there for everyone to have an open mind. It's usually ignorance that they don't want to look at it or face it. So we all have that opportunity to have a great place to go. And I think like you imagine the good that we can all do. Like if I get up in the morning and go, right, I'm going to try and help 5 people today in whatever way I possibly can. If everyone woke up with that idea, the world would be a very different place within a year. But it's not. It's very materialistic at the moment, the world.
Yeah.
You know, so if you've got the Bentley on the drive, then you're successful. But they don't look at the individual. They're probably the loneliest man in the world. They've got no one surrounding them. And although their riches are in stuff, inside they're virtually dead, you know. So I think we need to educate. I think it's going that way with this COVID thing that we've got here. We're starting to realize what is important. We're starting to realize, you know, me time is forced upon us. We're having to look at ourselves. Can't hide behind a job or a title. You have to face who you are. And I think a lot of people are shocked by what they're seeing or what they're doing. I mean, I don't know how it is there in the US, but I don't think I've had to get up. Maybe this is maybe the first time that I've had to make an effort into actually getting dressed since March. Since March.
For this interview?
Yeah. So, and it's like, but it's like since March, maybe one other time. And yeah, I can remember a time where I'd get up and think, right, my hair's got to be done. I've got to press a shirt. I've got to do this. Not for me, but for the projection of the individual I'm creating outside of my 4 walls. And that's changed. That's really changed now. You know, you're kind of like, I want to be comfortable today. I want to be like this today. I want to be like that today. So people are changing now because of that. And I think that works well with what the spirit world are trying to teach us: equality, and the natural law of cause and effect. Reap as you sow. So I think they're the main things. If we all realize that we are accountable for our words, our actions, and our thoughts, people would act very, very differently.
Yeah. I'm on the west coast of Canada for quarantine. I have 2 little kids who are 3 and 6. And so I got no time to myself. Like I went from having like 30 hours a week to myself to like nada.
0.
And I quit my job to go full time in this practice 3 weeks before lockdown. And I was like, oh my God. So when the schools opened, I was like, oh my God, thank God. Like even today, my kids are at care, so I'm able to do this. There's no way I could do this if they were here. But I agree. I mean, the big thing for me and like what Spirit is kind of bringing through me, like look at all the stuff you've accumulated through discontentment, right? Like just like, you've been so unhappy. You've just been bringing stuff. Like I unpacked my winter wardrobe a couple weeks ago. I have 48 sweaters. I was like, who needs 48 sweaters?
Absolutely.
3, but I was so discontent for so long, so unhappy.
Absolutely.
That's how I coped, right? So that was my big awareness when COVID happened. But
and I don't think it's just me and you. I don't think it's just the spiritual community. I think people, all walks of life, are starting to realize, do we need this? Do I need to do that? And they're asking themselves the question. And so that is amazing. That's when we'll start to see real change at that point. So
I love it. Well, Charlie, this has been so fun talking to you. I so appreciate your time and energy. You're such an amazing person. I love everything that you're bringing into the world. I'm definitely going to be signing up for something that you do. We'll see. I'll talk to you about it off air. But, you know, if we could just like, I'll have the links to your YouTube channel. And if there's anything else that you want to talk about on the podcast, and then just leave maybe the listeners with like a piece of advice, because it's all developing into it as a mediums who are typically listening.
Yeah, of course. So, so you're going to do the links and what have you. And I sell out on everything I do. I said I'm really, really fortunate, but I am coming to your area. I am in Canada, I am in New York, and I am in Chicago, which isn't announced yet, so you've got it first. No one else knows about it yet. So all them details will be on my website, which maybe you'll link that. It's mediumcharliekelly.co.uk. Moving forward, as a sign off, I mean, I think it resonates throughout what we've been speaking today. Allow yourself to be wrong. Allow yourself to fail, and not judge yourself for what you've done, but what you can change to make yourself that better version tomorrow of the person you envisage within your mind. It doesn't just have to be intuitives or psychics or mediums that do that. I mean, if we all adapt that allowance, that tolerance to forgive yourself for making a mistake, and then moving forward, learning from it, then everything will benefit. Family, work, relationships, it all adds up. Everything adds up. So lightheartedly, be the idiot, fail, but know why you failed and move forward. And you'll find mediumship, intuitive work will be much, much easier if you do it that way. So
I love it.
thank you again for having me.
Thank you, Charlie.